Hello everyone, welcome back to the lab and also welcome to a new video about the North American WCQ recap. Just like in the past, this will be another very long video and I will break it into different sections, so feel free to watch it, listen to it in different time while you're doing other things or maybe on the way anywhere. Unlike before, this time and probably for the future, I will start using more a remote duel kind of setup instead of showing any like third-party applications or other things. Therefore, other YouTubers, streamers, maybe they are able to do like a reaction video or just show on stream a bit better. So yeah, that's probably the way I would do it. And then let's kind of start the video for now. Not gonna lie, I am a little bit hesitant about making the video because I wasn't doing particularly good. I wasn't performing as well in this past WCQ. It's weird because I just right before it, I just got into finals of the most recent YCS, right? But moving after YCS Providence, I kind of had a tough time, both in-game and outside the game. Within the game, the format has been completely different, as everyone may already know. The format at the beginning of Alliance Inside at YCS Providence was drastically different than post YCS Providence. Now, it's no longer dominated by Malice, but it's more so centering with Mizu and the Mizu variant decks. And it's quite different. And I kind of lost a grasp of it. I started not knowing how to tackle the format. Everything feels kind of bad. And then, as well as at the same time, I had some physical issues. May was like a big allergy season for me every year. Along with right after I recovered from my allergy, I had a flu for another weeks. So the entire late May to early June, my physical condition was just not as good. Despite making into finals of YCS Providence, give me a chance to be qualified for North America's World Points, and my physical condition wasn't good enough to make me perform as well consistently in all the regionals I decided to grind. So I eventually kind of started the grind right after the YCS, but quickly dropped it after like 3 weeks into it, which is within May. And after that, I decided to kind of take a break. Kind of detox myself from Yu-Gi-Oh! That I haven't really been doing for a very long time. I'll say it's at the end kind of helping me, but at the same time I was you can say I was a little bit behind in terms of preparation for the WCQ, which is also true. So coming back from my break partially was also fine because I think that was during late June that I came back when all the European nationals and even some of the continental WCQs has concluded. So I had a good amount of data that I can analyze and help me to prepare for this NAWCQ. So let me quickly summarize what I kind of concluded from all the data I find. I did actually try Malice right before I kind of start taking a break. Pretty much like I already learned how to play Malice before, how to play against Malice before, but playing Malice by myself was like never really a thing I did, and I attempted during the weeks I was grinding. Not gonna lie, it's a good deck, but it just wasn't for me. I had a good moment with Malice, but I also had that like horrible times where sometimes you just can't be a single Lancia. You just have to take some losses against some games, and then there's no way to recover. We're in such a high roll format, and then sometimes I just cannot win because my hands are bad without the inclusion of Lancia, and sometimes when both of our hands are okay or even good, but the Lancia just stops everything. And at the end, my win rates are not that good. When I was winning a lot. But when I was struggling, when it's not my day, when my luck isn't as good, and then I just struggled a lot with Malice. So at the end, despite Malice being, I accept it's one of the best deck in the format, arguably the second best, I ended up just not choosing it for North America, for the WCQ. At the very beginning, I concluded that. Not my type of deck. But then this format is kind of weird. After, if you're not looking at Malice, the rest of them it's weird. We're in such a format where you can't really tell what deck after Malice, well, what deck is next to Malice, right? There are just all puzzle pieces with like Mewtwo, Ryzeal, Fingsmith, Orcus, and then a bit of other things. These are just puzzle pieces. You can combine these in multiple different ways and build a deck that can win. And how to, like, choosing the combination of the puzzle pieces is hard. And they also share a common issue. You see, these are the good copies of the cards in the deck, right? Like I'm showing on the screen. But there are also the bad copies in every engine that you could be drawing. And these just are where the variance at. I can be drawing ice every day if I'm playing a Ryzeal deck, but I can also just be drawing Node every game, and I will be wondering why am I even ever playing Ryzeal. Similar case for all the engines here. It's kind of a unsolvable problem, I find out at the end. We're just such a format. This is just how the format is. Before the most recent ban list, it's not as big an issue because there are still enough good starters. Like there were 3 Ice, 3 X, so having Node and crossing the deck is not that big an issue because you still have a good ratio between good cards and bad cards. But now with Konami, instead of like addressing the ceiling, they addressing the consistency, made every single possible engine we can play outside Malice just inconsistent. Yes, I can have as many possible engines in my deck and as many good starters in my deck, but then at the same time, every engine comes with some bricks, and at some games I just eventually start drawing them in groups, and I just be dying. And that was literally how I died in the WCQ. I had so many games where I just open the bad part of different engines I have in my deck, and eventually killed me. So I guess since I mentioned my deck, I'll probably show it really quick. I end with choosing a Mewtwo centered deck. Obviously, I mean Mewtwo is the best engine at the moment in the card pool. But I think my Mewtwo deck is slightly different than a lot of other people's. So let's start with the engine deck. So the Mewtwo engine, 3 Haba, Murakumo, the 3 little guys. I call them the Demon Slayer trio. And then the Nice Serpent. Prayers, 2 Ritual, Mirror, and 3 Pre-Prep. The biggest issue of Mewtwo is you have the trio, the Ritual spell, potentially the other Ritual spell with Pre-Prep, and the Serpent. Well, along with Murakumo, right? So the ratio between good cards and the bad cards are kinda not ideal. This is the issue with this engine. So in order to solve that, my conclusion after watching a lot of results, primarily from Euro, is pumping up the size of Mewtwo engine. Start running pre-prep. Now with pre-prep, the ratio is a lot better because there is Haba, Mewtwo, Haba, Prayers, pre-prep. These are just the good cards, but the only sacrifice is like adding one kind of bad cards. And that's like kind of the solution to it. I kind of concluded if I ever play Mewtwo or almost like I kind of have to play Mitsu, but in order for me to play Mitsu, I have to make Mitsu ratios good by just simply adding the pre-prep. So this is like my Mitsu engine. Why there's still like Armasa and then Niso Serpent, I will show you in a minute. These are almost more so like an engine requirement because this is a slightly different Mitsu Ryzeal variant than others. And then the Ryzeal portion of the deck. It's 2 ice, 2 X, 1 sword, 1 node, and then the bonfire. This is a ratio I kind of copied from one of the European nationals. I was doing a little bit too much research with too many data, so I kind of lost track which one was specifically from. But having 1 sword, it's okay, because I'm like, the Ryzeal engine is no longer the primary engine in my list to operate. I like, based on the sheer amount of cards, you can tell my deck is mainly Mitsu. And the Ryzeal are just good starters to access to the Mitsu. The good to bad cards ratio is like almost fine with a 5-2, as long as I don't add more copies of the bad ones in the deck, right? By not playing Star and Cross, I don't have to worry about the bricks. And so the only realistically brick is just the node. Sword is like still okay half of the time. So this is the ideal way of how I want to play Ryzeal now. But still, there's the issue. There's just not enough cards. Not enough Ryzeals. There's, at the end, a total of 7 cards. And that's it. Which, there are a lot of time I don't see my Ryzeal, so I have to really search it. But my search, the way I search it could be stopped by other people's down engine. So a lot of time I have to play more like a pure Mitsu or Mitsu variant, Mitsu dominant decks, and that's another issue. But that's an unsolvable issue because there's only that few amount of Ryzeal cards left. So in order to solve it, I tossed the Engraver in. Funny to say, the Engraver, the Fingsmith engine, is conflicting with Mitsu because Fingsmith gets drolled. The whole Fingsmith engine gets drolled. It's a weird concept of me even saying it, because it even took me a little time to realize what was really happening. Right? Fingsmith engine for the longest time was known to be kind of immune to Drone Lockbird. But in the format specifically we're in, it's weird. Let's just start with not even Engraver, but Tracked, right? If you start with Tracked in your hand, you are doing the whole Fingsmith combo by getting like Lurie, Lacrima, Engraver, and other things. Ignoring Droll. You are getting drolled, but it's not hurting you at all. However, whenever you do this line, the other searchers in your hand, now they are getting drolled. Right? If you open Haba Tracked against a droll, at the best, either one of them will going to resolve. And then the worst case, if you open like combination of others, like if you open Engraver and Haba, it's like Engraver is not even possible to combo with Tracked. And if you play Sanct, the one that kind of goes away from Droll, it's still making Engraver like conflicting with other searchers that you need to have. So at the end, even hypothetically, I comboed my Fingsmith portion of the deck, I still have issues against Droll. And the ending board, if I combo, for example, with just Tracked, because Tracked only give me 1 Engraver in the graveyard, I never have enough bodies to make both Caesar and Desiree to kind of win. And winning and sitting on either Caesar or Desiree after a draw, after another half of my engine gets turned off, is not enough for me to win the game at the moment, because how the format is. So I concluded if I play like a big Fingsmith engine with Engraver, Tracked, Lurie, Lacrima, it kind of start conflicting with Mitsu engine because they both getting drolled in different ways. Even if I can make a pivot board after being drolled, it's still not ideal. I'm not winning with this little amount of things. So I draw the conclusion, maybe it's fine to just not play that many Fingsmith parts. Play just one engraver, severely reduce the issue of drawing Akbar against this. Because now with one engraver, okay, this engraver now is the brick. But it's the same as if I play the whole Fingsmith package, because I will be drawing Paradise, right? So the amount of bricks is still the same. I just reduce the amount of like kind of mid starters in my deck. But with one engraver, if I'm never drawing this, and then if I start with like my Mitsu lines, if I get drolled here, I can easily pivot into 2 monster into a Caesar, which is, in my opinion, Caesar is one of the most devastating ending board monster I can put up on a board, if possible. And funny to say, I honestly think at Providence, the reason I was doing so well because I was the very few human being in the entire room who was abusing Caesar as much as I can. And I had a lot of games where just Caesar soloing people, or Caesar was under the protection of Desiree soloing people. And that felt great. So I think at the end I just like included an engraver into the deck. There's also other things that result in me choosing to run engraver. Because I could have just run a regular Ryzeal Mitsu with more support on the Xyz point instead of Link part, right? The big reason is I want to play Bestials. Bestials felt great in my testing. There were one time where I played against my opponent, one of my friend. He ended on just like a Murakumo with a Boldrick in hand, and I couldn't beat it already. Since Boldrick is randomly tributing the Murakumo for the effect, and it gets Murakumo back, blow up my board as well as searching follow-up. And also, Bestials, in a very Mitsu dominant format, they are actually solid interruptions. However, they have very bad synergies with Ryzeal cards, specifically X-Ryzeal. So how do I kind of alleviate this problem? I turn the Bestials into actual Link bodies by adding a Fingsmith into my deck. That's my solution to it. If I play like a regular Ryzeal Mitsu deck, I kind of not able to play any Bestials because they are not level 4, they're not rank 4 bodies, and then I don't really link in that kind of deck. So they conflict with X, so kind of they just have anti-synergies. So at the end, after I came back after the break, I concluded with a few things. Mitsu is the biggest engine of the format. Ryzeal is the second biggest engine that supports the Mitsu the best. Bestials are the things I really want to play, and I think they're good. But they have anti-synergy with Ryzeal. So in order to solve that, I toss in Fingsmith. But because the big Fingsmith engine conflicting with Mitsu engine, since they both can get drolled. So in order to solve that, I just only have one engraver to do that. That become like the whole line of thoughts for the engine part of my deck. And I guess I will show the extra deck really quick, because that's also kind of part of the engine. There's Detonator, Dual Drive, Twins, King Pharaoh, Igniter. These 4 are, that's guaranteed there. Igniter is one of the few that's like, was debating for a bit. Along with the Duars. These 2 are the question spots. The rest kind of is also just like fixed cards. Aggregator, and then the new Veilon, the super size Sky Blaster. This is one of the new cards from Duad, and this also allow me to play other cards in my side and in my non-engine portion. I think this is like very good addition. I believe this card could break the format, which I attempted. You'll see it in a bit. Plus IP, SP. These are the kind of with the Dyna. These 3 were the Ryzeal, the Mizu portion of the extra deck, and then the Fingsmith portion of the extra deck, just Moon, Requiem, Necrocrypt, and Caesar, for the Fingsmith portion of the deck. So, to be honest, 13 out of the 15 cards were fixed. I couldn't really change anything ever. The only possible debates were Dugaris and Co-Igniter. I actually do have a lot of other choices I was thinking while I was testing it. Exciton may into extra deck once because it is one of the life themed that can be used for engraver. It's also something like it's also good to break boards in the Ryzeal deck, obviously. But at the end, it was like I had a lot of moments where I was using it, I was summoning it, I was resolving it, breaking the board, but I wasn't winning after that because I couldn't kill. And then half of the time I'm locking to rank 4s, or half of the time I even side out my engraver that shuts off the entire Fingsmith engine, resulting the lifing portion of the discard being kind of pointless. But primary reason is I wasn't consistently winning, even I blow up the whole field with Exciton because how the Mitsu follow up is so crazy. And then so eventually I kind of just using it less and less. It's more often being sent of X being sent of Ultimate Slayer as the lifing body for my engraving in the graveyard. That's like the main use. But at the end I kind of cut it. Gallon Grin I also made into the extra deck for a bit. Obviously along with the Nibiru for the deck. These are a very common thing people play in their Mitsu deck because Nib just has a good synergy with all the Mitsu big guys. So I think at the very beginning it was Igniter plus Granite, no Dugaris, and with the Nib in the deck. But a couple issues came up. Nib was kind of particularly useless going second because it was as you will see later, there isn't that many non-engine spaces in my deck, so I was never really pairing up Nib often enough to make Nib good. And then going first, the Nib feels a bit way more. It's even I don't search with the Granite, even I just don't ever go through the Granite, my twin's still alive, and I'm still winning with whatever I can make. You'll see the combo in a minute. So, and then my friend saying, who also tested the deck with me, saying he needed Dugaris for specifically Lunalight. Because Luna, for Light Dancer, is a pretty big thing that you have to sometimes beat over it. And Dugaris doubling anything to beat over the Light Dancer after baiting it out is one of the biggest way to out this thing. And without Dugaris, without the OTK ability, sometimes some games I either couldn't out the Light Dancer or I couldn't OTK my opponent. So after I tested a little bit, instead of cutting anything else, I kind of just cut the Granite. Because going first, searching the Nib, arguably is the same as I just make a Dugaris draw too. Going through my combo, you will see I kind of go through almost 20 cards out of my deck. So whenever I resolve the Dugaris turn 1, at the point, the amount of hand trap in my deck left is quite big. So drawing one hand trap out of the 2 is kind of expected. And that's probably similar affecting as searching the Nib, right? So I ended up just cutting Granite for Nib and then have the Dugaris in the deck. But Igniter is the one that actually come up the least. This card is only there specifically when I get imposed on my ritual spell. But that has either not really happening or not often enough for it matters. Or sometimes even even the impulse does happen. Making Igniter isn't gonna be good enough to come back. So I ended up just still have it, but I'm thinking about cutting it for other things that I don't know what will be. I keep telling myself this not coming up is probably a good thing. That means I never got impulse, right? Which is good. So at the end, this is I guess the only weird spot at left in my extra deck, and then I'm thinking about changing it, but at the same time, the format's kind of over for me. So maybe I don't even need to come up with an answer. So, I guess after going through the extra, I will show some combos that will making this whole list looks more intact. So I'll show you just one Haba. What can one Habakiri do? Haba effect, get to Saji, tribute, or search me Ritual. Ritual summon Haba, tribute Kusanagi, and Serpent. Serpent summon Kusanagi at the Ritual back. This is probably the same opening for so many Mitsu combos. And then here go activate Ritual again, tribute Haba into Murakumo. Haba comes back, Surge, Prayer. Here is where it starts to be different. I'll go link the Haba and the Serpent into Moon. And then Requiem. Requiem effect into Engraver. Then equip, send for Necrocrypt. Necrocrypt, well, summon back the Engraver, shuffle back the Moon. These two going to a Caesar. The good reason of this setup is because I haven't really used the necessary part of my Mitsu engine. Right? Prayer was never used. Murakumo was never tributed. If I ever get nipped here on like the summon of Engraver, the Murakumo can come back after nib, and then the prayer can like be used any moment to either recover from the board or just use it as a follow-up. And if my Engraver gets bestialed, I still have this Necrocrypt. So if my prayer tribute anything in my hand, this Necrocrypt can also draw me some cards, which actually happened during the tournament. I think I resolved like a Necrocrypt draw 2 across of 2 turns, something like that. But if I go completely uninterrupted and get to here, now all my Mitsu cards are immune to all possible bestials because Caesar exists. And which means I can go freely activate prayers, tribute, summon back any level 4 while searching another level 4 for my deck. While also bring back the Murakumo to search another prayers for following. And then remember, this is all of a single Habakiri, so I have never normal summoned. I just go normal, grab the Habakiri back. This is not necessary, but might as well. Why not? And now I can go into my Ryzeal portion of the deck. Then go. So now I have normal summoned this Armasa. I can just search X and no, I search Sword and a Node. Since the way I do this combo kind of reminds me how I played Finkspace Ryzeal back then. Most likely, if I never started with ISO X, my X will never be able to search because I always have non-level 4s on my field. So Node, the only way I get Node access is pretty much resolving Dual Drive. But here I have enough bodies, I can just go start making the Mitsu portion of the board by just going to an IP, link away the Murakumo is fine. I have this prayer in my hand for next turn, and my Murakumo is immune to like an end-phase bestial because I have Caesar on the board. Here, because I have this dual drive, special sword grab an X sending twins, summon X, these two going to Dugaris. At the very beginning, at the very beginning of the testing, I was making Granite to search Nib, but turned out like making a Dugaris just as good, like I mentioned. Here I go draw 2, ideally draw a hand trap because I go through so many cards in my engine, pitch 1, and then here go summon Node, send, summon back, make a detonator to attach twins. And this is the Wousu combo of Habakiri. I end with getting Habakiri back to hand, have a prayer for next turn to revive my Murakumo, have Detonator, Caesar, IP, along with draw 2 pitch 1. And let's say I have never lost a game after making this board. The only way I have lost is because I paid 800 and I lost in time after making this, but that's like not really the issue from the board. I think let me see, and I think you can do similar things. If I start with like any other extenders, for example, I have a Ryzeal already in hand. I might be able to have an extra body left on the board, so I can even keep the Murakumo left on the board to end in on this. And I can do the similar things with normal summoning ice. So normal ice, get to X. X will search sword. Then these two going to King Pharaoh. King Pharaoh search Haba. Haba reveal. Summon Saji. Honestly, tribute whatever, because this part of Chrome doesn't need it. Search another ritual. Ritual the Haba out. Get into Serpent and Kusanagi, add the ritual back. Ritual again. Tribute the Haba. Into Murakumo. Summon the Haba. Get the prayer. And then these two into a dual drive. Don't even need to attach because I'm gonna link away very soon. Dual drive search, get a node, and probably just another X. I mean, I'll get both of them back. And then the Murakumo has not been tributed, but the Habakiri is, so I'll link these two into IP. Oh no, into Moon. And then Moon into Requiem, Engraver into Necroquip, shuffle back the Moon into Caesar, and then activate prayer, tribute, bring back whatever, summon back the Murakumo while searching another prayer and I guess another whatever of the prayer. Go these two into an IP, and then special ice, special sword, search the ice, special X, because I never did it. I summoned it off the ice. Sending twins, these two into a Duvaris, draw two, summon node, send it, revive, make a detonator, attach. So yeah, ice can pretty much do the same thing. You see me using prayer to expand the board bigger. The combo still works if I had to like draw face prayer search Habakiri, or I needed just like any normal summon level 4 to do the combo the same way. Because all the prayer did was get another level 4 body on the board. But I can do the same thing by keeping the Serpent and then just normal summon another level 4, make dual drive first, and then get to it, pretty much exactly the same as right now. So this is like how I end with doing the whole combo for the deck, and I'm pretty happy about this specific combo because ending on Caesar, make sure I'm not really getting nib, make sure even I get nib isn't heard. Making a Caesar early, force out any possible bestials. Since my opponent won't be able to bestial after Caesar, that means all my Mitsu cards are safe from bestials. And then I think bestials were actually one of the biggest issue for Mitsu. Like I said, I was analyzing a lot of data from European nationals and WCQs. And then the way it's going there, from a Ryzeal Mitsu deck, it's going more Mitsu than Ryzeal, thus making bestials a lot better as an interruptions, as a hand trap, as just cards in general against it. So adding Engraver, adding Caesar, adding a whole Fingsmith's like package into the deck using Caesar to force out Bestials was like kind of my way to tackle it. However, it kind of backfired me a little bit. So at the very beginning, it was even like other things in the deck, like Wousu was also in the deck, but I was cutting it because I think it's just not necessary. That the ending board you saw earlier was good enough, right? Despite a lot of European lists played Wousu, I was not thinking this is needed, so I was cutting it. But along with other few things I cut, this is probably one of the big one that I kind of regretted a little bit. So if you have watched, I think one of the Josh Schmidt's video on his channel, I think about like his national and then format analysis, he mentioned something like, we're in a format where you kind of have to draw one of these three going second and resolve one of them, at least, to even have a chance to win. And I think that's true, but at the same time, in addition to it, I think in Europe, since the Ryzeal Mitsu deck has been evolving more toward Mitsu part, making Prulia a significantly worse card in the deck, or in general. There are so many situations I imagined where I have to like drop Prulia, maybe not even get a single draw, or at most I get one draw, then I have to immediately draw myself after Prulia resolved. And that actually happened in the tournament when people against me. I was having issue with the Prulia, with my opponent's Prulia resolving, thinking how many draws I should give my opponent. So I kind of started playing the Mitsu part of the deck a little. But suddenly I got drawed because they think I'm like heavier on Mitsu. So now I have an empty, now have a gap I can abuse. I just start pivoting into my Fingsmith portion of the deck. And if I even have ice, because the draw has resolved, essentially shut down the Prulia, I can now even normal summoning ice make both Caesar and Detonator after my opponent draw me. So the concept of my list was essentially based on the idea of these, saying when either one of them resolving, either Fua, Prulia, or draw, my deck can still end it on at least one, or more often 2 out of the 3 engines in my deck to make an ending board that's good enough to win. That's the idea of it. If Fua resolve, I pretty much ended on like maybe a Detonator plus Mitsu, maybe just in a pure Mitsu board, like an IP Mitsu cards kind of board. And then if a Prulia resolve, I ended on like a Fingsmith Mitsu board with Caesar, Murakumo spell. And then if a draw resolve, then I can go on like play a Fingsmith Ryzeal board with just like Detonator Caesar. Or sometimes even Detonator Caesar IP with like Murakumo if I start with some of the Mitsu cards action and actually resolve it, then get drawed. Right? So the idea was there. However, for the non-engine portion of my deck, I kind of a little bit overtune it. I was not playing Prulia in my whole list. And I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I've made for this WCQ. Because in Euro, when people are going more towards Mitsu part for the Ryzeal Mitsu deck, it's different in North America, where in North America, everyone's going heavier on the Ryzeal portion of the deck than Mitsu. I actually seen a lot more lists with just no pre-prep, but more completed Ryzeal engine with Star and Cross, and maybe even Dodo the Warrior, to just, if I ever get drawed, I just go abusing either Ouroboros to hand loop you, or Protoss to just play a non-game, maybe even play into the Fua and Prulia half of the time. So me going into this WCQ expecting to fair fight people didn't really happen as often as I wanted to. I, despite I won a lot of games, a lot of the matches against people with Protoss or Ouroboros, I may have used a bit too much of luck in those cases. So whenever I was playing a fair fight as my opponent, I kind of ran out of luck and start drawing all the bricks in my deck. And that will essentially cost me the games. Didn't really directly lose me the games as often. More often was because we kind of both brick in game 3 and my opponent top decked the outs first. Didn't kill me because I have the non-engines. But I was lower on life and I needed time to come back, and that didn't happen. So those were like most of my losses at the end, which I kind of a little frustrated about it, but what can I really do about it, right? So the non-engine in the Mink deck that I haven't shown was just Fua, Droll, Ash, Call by Talents. Mentioned earlier, Fua, Droll are essentially necessary evil of the format. You kind of just have to play it. You expect to see at least one of them, have one of them resolving to win going second. Ash is only there. I honestly think Ash is very bad as a hand trap going second, but you need it to go against other people's chummies going first. So these enemies making the deck. And same as Call by Talent. I'm kind of playing like a very relatively lower count of non-engines in the main, and then citing some breakers to have like a similar build I played it during, I'll say the June 2024 Cash Snake Eye time, where I had about half breaker, half hand trap in the main. I switched to more breakers going second post sighting, that kind of idea. But it worked out that time. It didn't work out this time. I think probably because I just didn't play Pruli at the end, so I don't have enough like unfair cards to play. So after the engine, I guess let's talk about the non-engine. The Prulia, like I already mentioned. You probably also notice I didn't play Imperm. Imperm and other fair hand traps like Imperm it doesn't feel good enough. Every time I use them, I feel like it's a -1 to me. It's almost feel like I head loop myself. And even then, sometimes it just doesn't even work. Like your opponent is able to have ways to bypass it, to play around it, or more often just play into it. So a lot of time I just like, and plus a lot of data I saw from Europe just completely cutting Imperm together, which I kind of agree with it. I don't regret not having Imperm in my list. And then not having Imperm resulted a very weird thing is thrust in the side start getting weird. Because when I don't have Imperm in my main, or I'm not gonna side Imperm, and not having Imperm in my whole list may thrust losing a universal target to set in any situation. Yes, I can set purification, but this require my Mitsu engine to be online to even resolve, right? So it's not the ideal. And then in order to play thrust, I also have to play probably at least 3 thrust target to cover the whole format. Every single one of these has issues, has blind spots in this format. So I need a lot of spaces in my side devoted to the thrust package to make it sorta okay. And then that's another issue. That's another reason why I cut Prulia. Because if I play 6 chummies in my main deck, I need like 6 cards to side in going first post siding, right? Which I couldn't find spaces in my side to do that. I just couldn't find 6. So at the end, I'm also not playing cross out. So I have to like either keep some number of chummies going first, or I have to side out siding some other weird cards when I go first. Because not every single thrust target works every single games. I have to siding maybe 1, at most 2 sometimes, because I also don't have Imperm as a universal targets. So at the end of the whole thrust package is also feeling weird as a non-engine, along with Featherstorm. Issue with Featherstorm is like if I don't see my level 4, because there isn't that many level 4 package in my deck, there isn't that many Ryzeal cards in my deck. So I do have moments where I can either set the Featherstorm or access the Featherstorm, but I have no way to make Castell, Or even I make Castell, this is literally the only thing I make, which doesn't feel good. So this essentially has a chance to brick. And also, same time, trying to fit Castell in my side or extra feels impossible because every other card, like I mentioned, feels necessary to me. Cold Igniter, despite after the tournament, I said it feels not as necessary, but before the tournament, when I was expecting more impulses, I still think it was more needed than the Castell. So these are just like the weird issue of some non-engines at the moment, specifically Thrust, and then the Prulia, the some issue caused by Prulia. And I even thought about other things like the General Solemns. They are good, but they're also weird. Judgment specifically, because time rules sometimes just not playable. And when I'm in a situation where I'm like, game 3, not enough time, I cannot side in Judgment, then I will severely lacking cards I can side out for my chummies in the main deck to side them in, to side anything. Then it feels bad when I'm in those situations. I feel like it's just going to be a lose-lose situation no matter what I do. Warning, I guess Strike is the next one. Strike is arguably the best out of the 3 in general, usually. But Strike in the current format feels very weird because Strike doesn't stop ritual spells. So a lot of the time I have to play Warning instead of Strike to cover the ritual spells that my opponent starts from the Mitsu engine. But Warning as a card is significantly worse than Strike because striking some formats, you can even put this in going second and this is still could be fine. And then even going first, it has better coverage than Warning against other deck that's not ritual summoning. Right? But Warning at the end, it nearly does nothing going second. It hits only the ritual spell better, but nothing else. It's actually worse against everything else. For example, against Malice, if I have a strike, I can just wait until they go normal Dormouse, normal Rabbit, call the effect, strike the effect. So now even they have like a March here to bring it back, and there's still no effect from it, which I will be perfectly fine to just like play after that. But if I have to Warning the summon, then suddenly the second they bring it back or bring another copy to the board, they can still use the effect, which might just lose me the game. So that's one of the biggest thing I don't like any of these Solemns at the moment. And there are still people playing Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, which hits these cards very perfectly, along with originally I would already have a Prayer and then maybe Purification set, so I kind of just like force it out a little bit. Like getting Duster on my both Warning and Prayers feel horrible. And that's at the end. I like these cards also feels a bit weird. And then the last thing is Gamma along with the Delta package. I really thought about it. But remember, I'm already play engines with quite a few bricks. Right? There are bricks from nearly every single engine I could be playing. And playing more bricks even from the non-engine portion, a bit too much risk I want to take. So despite Gamma and even Delta are good cards, that I probably should be playing and taking the risk going on high roll to the extreme, I just wasn't brave enough to really choose it. And thus I left Gamma and Delta not really as options in my deck. And then these are the more problematic engine cards that I didn't choose because they all come with some issues. The ones I ended choosing, in my side, well, the Purification obviously still make it because it's still searchable. Despite Ender's not playing any Thrust, this is still accessible by a lot of ways, so obviously this should be here. In my opinion, better going first card, surprisingly recommended by one of my friend, was Quarkymere Guardian. Like you saw earlier, I don't really normal summon in the combo I show you. If I draw any Habakiris or any copies of Habakiris, I'm able to combo without really normal summoning. And the worst case, I maybe give up an IP, then I'll have enough bodies to still end it on like Caesar Detonator, Murakumo. So Clockkeeper Guardian becoming the best thing to do, because this checks draw. This most of the time checks Fua because the opponent is not gonna like randomly Fua me in draw phase most of the time, right? It doesn't really check Prulia, but Prulia is like the one that I can play around the best out of all my engines. The ending board after being Prulia is probably the best compared to being drawed or being Fua'd. So I think this at the end becoming the best choice for my deck. In case anyone thinking, this is also the rock. So at the very beginning version of my list, I was doing, if I start with Guardian full combo, I can go through a Granite, search Nib, and keep the Guardian alive, reveal the Nib, so next turn I have both Nib and Guardian as an ending board. Yes, that's a very ideal situation. But after testing, I found out even I just don't go through Granite, even I just don't keep the Guardian alive. I just keep it sitting on the board, full combo the rest. At the end phase, let it die. I'm still winning. So at the end, I just okay, the Guardian still made it, but I don't have to find a way to maintain Guardian. I will still be winning. And then the cost of playing a deck with relatively low hand trap count, non-engine count, is I have to max out the amount of non-engine I need for Malice. Lancia Meows. These are, the best non-engines against Malice, right? So just have to max them out. And that's about it, pretty much. We're in the format that at least the Lancia are necessary. Sometimes Meows is just in addition. And then the best card, in my opinion, out of all the non-engines I find, was Ultimate Slayer. Slayer, because the addition of Veilon in the TC card pool now from Duelist Events. Let me find out. This. Ultimate Slayer now can check a very specific board that I was kind of having issue with during, I would say, Providence time. Let's just say my opponent, a standard Ryzeal Mitsu board, consists with Prayers, Purification, Detonator, Murakumo. Right? This is pretty standard. Maybe sometimes occasionally with a cross-up. That's an ending board. Ultimate Slayer can target a Detonator. Let's assume they don't have Purification in the main deck, right? Just this board, Ultimate Slayer can just send Veilon, shuffle back the Detonator to the extra deck, which turns off Cross, and then Veilon can force out the Prayer, force them either to do whatever thing, and now they're out of ways to tribute the Murakumo, which essentially means Ultimate Slayer can single card out this board. And even if I am playing against the board with a Purification, as long as I draw a copy of X, I can go I can go activate Slayer first, sending Aggregator, target the Detonator. If they do negate it with Purification, that's fine. Then the Aggregator can force it out by either choose a Detonator or choose Cross, which either they're gonna negate or not. And after that, I can go Special X, sending Veilon. Veilon target a Prayer. This X will get destroyed, but it will also force out the Prayer, so the Murakumo will be forced out. Now all they have, really, is just a Detonator that probably use one or two materials. Maybe has a Twins that can revive, but this is a lot more doable to deal even going second. Because remember, also X also search a sword here. So I have plenty of bodies that I haven't used to do things. So this is so because these kind of interruptions, I found Ultimate Slayer be one of more ideal going second cards in all possible cards I can choose. And I really during the tournament, I actually had some very good moments where this is just broke a lot of situation that I didn't. That normally no other single card can do. It's still not a single card that deal with like nearly every single board, but it probably traded the best against most boards you can face. I believe that this package with these with Aggregator and Veilong has the potential to kind of crack the format. I tried, attempted. It definitely showed me something. But at the end, this is probably more a Ryzeal thing, Ryzeal side deck cards. Similar as like Mistaken or Arrest is specifically a Malus card against Mitsu decks. This requires to have at least 2 copies, two spaces in the extra to be effective, along with probably X Ryzeal in the deck, so it's possible to send both in one turn to be effective to crap boards going second. So this at the end is probably more a Ryzeal only side, and I don't regret running it. So these are the majority of the side. Then Cowboy for time, because well, format in this do be grinding, so at the end it just need it. Now after the tournament, I think maybe I can just cut the Igniter so I can fit Cowboy into my extra deck naturally, thus free up a space in my very tight side deck, so I can put in maybe more going first card. That will allow me to have more that will allow me to play Prulias in my main because I can side the Malpole siding. So that's an idea, which I'll probably try it. The last card in my side is Wousu, the Mitsu Kaiju thing. Because Lunalight exists. Lycandancer was one of the new edition deck from Duelist Events. One of the more problematic thing that a lot of people, including myself, kind of scared of. With the addition of Wousu in my list, now I can out a single Lycandancer relatively easily with a lot of engine pieces. So let me show you how to deal with it. Imagine the Lunalight ending board is a single Lycandancer, right? Maybe something else, but depends. We'll just use a single Lycandancer as an example. If they get to double Lycandancer, that's game over. So let's see, what's the best one? Ice Ryzeal. I think a lot of other ones also works. Ice is the best one to do it here. Go normal Ice, summon X search sword. Now instead of making any important rank 4s, the first rank 4 I will make is King Pharaoh. This is the first moment where my opponent could have blown up the board already, because King Pharaoh get to Habakiri is so many resources that they have to deal with. So this is already the first checkpoint where my opponent Lycandancer could blow up the board. Let's just assume he does. Right? What will happen after? Go special sword, grab another copy of X. Special, sending kind of whatever. I'll just say send the Igniter, because that's a useless rank 4 spa I said. And these two going to my dual drive. Dual drive, effect to attach, and then effect to detach to search will give me another ice and node. Go special node, pitch anything, revive the sword to make a Dugaris. And then Dugaris effect to double the dual drive. So now suddenly we have a big ass dual drive that can just go battle phase, beat over the Lycandancer. And then main phase 2, go make these two into a twins. Send the twins up for the ice to trigger twins, revive the King Pharaoh, and then King Pharaoh search Habakiri to make the board as big as possible. Main phase 2 to set up things. This is already locking to force, but I can still end it on things like, I guess, Murakumo Trap. Maybe Murakumo prayer trap. That's the idea. So if my opponent blow up the King Pharaoh, that's how I out the board. That's how I out the Legadancer. But let's say if they don't blow up the board, they just keep letting me combo here, right? Still same start. Ice into X, search, sword. These two into King Pharaoh. They already expecting what's gonna happen. They're gonna let it go. So my King Pharaoh now will search Habakiri. And then, well, now everything's in my hand. I get to start playing my Mitsu line. So Habakiri into Saji, and then tributed the Saji effect. Well, get ritual. In some cases, this ritual might get negated because the opponent might have the Silver Hound in the graveyard to negate, right? But if that happens, maybe there's still options to just not summon Saji, but also like you can summon Armasa to now have access to Wousu. You can maybe already have Habakiri in hand. Just go straight search Wousu of the King Pharaoh. Now you can just summon Wousu, tribute it. If the second you access Wousu into hand, your opponent think, oh, they need to blow up the field now because otherwise they would just be gone. So they blow up the field. Then you can do it the same way with the Ryzeal cards like I showed earlier if they blow up early. But if they don't, and they just keep letting this get Wousu to tribute with the Habakiri, now you can start doing other things. Locking into Reptile is not that big of an issue because this specific interaction, going second, I'll actually side in Purification against Luna because I expected myself to Reptile lock me in order to out the Legadancer. And then whenever this happens, I will need to set up some interruption under the Reptile lock. So I will ideally still want to get to Murakuma Prayer and Purification to the board after being Reptile locked. And so this is pretty much the idea against Luna. This requires Wousu to be existing in my deck. There are quite a few ways to access this. I can King Pharaoh search it. I can Habakiri summon it, tribute it. Then because it's being tributed, I pitch one to add it to hand. I can just go Prayer or Armasa, search it from the deck. I can maybe, if I resolve Ritual, to just tribute it from the deck to summon one of my Ritual, and this will trigger so to go back to my hand. There are quite a few ways to access to it, but it just needed to be live into my deck, so some of the lines works against Legadancer. And this is like pretty much the idea of this. And because this whole line existing, I was very, very satisfied against my matchup against Luna. There wasn't that many at the WCQ, and even there is, I didn't queue into any. So this portion of the thoughts kind of go completely wasted. But hopefully it helps for whoever might face it in the future. So that's pretty much the whole decklist part of the video. It's a lot of information. Overall, I wasn't really satisfied with the whole list, specifically based on the performance. I think I was on a right path, but wasn't really executed well enough. However, there also part of me keep thinking, even hypothetically I did execute it well, was I able to top WCQ or even maybe have a chance to go into Worlds? I think the answer is no. We're in such a format where it's so high rolling to win. A lot of time I feel with the same luck, even I didn't make any mistakes I did, the hands that dealt to me wasn't good enough to win. it really reminded me 2022, the first like WCQ, like quote unquote national WCQ that doesn't give invite. That one, the one with Punk, Brave, Branded, that like weird Mystic Mind format in 2022. It really reminded me that format. That's one of my least favorite format, that WCQ. But this format right now, 2025 Nats, really remind me that one. Because if you think about it, there are few theme deck in both years, which are almost feel like the terrorists of the format. There's Drytron in 2022, just a explosive going first terrorist. Same case as Malice right now. Right? There were some kind of mid-range solid deck, like the Pure Orcus, the Fingsmith Orcus that won the WCQ this past weekend, and then there's Sorso that won 2022. Those decks were good, solid, but not amazing, and never like anyone's first pick if you asked them what the deck you think will go to Worlds with it. They are those decks. In order to perform good with those decks, you just need to be very lucky, have the best cards glued in your hand to do it. It almost feel like that way. I specifically remember watching the feature, the Orcus guy, and just drawing Gearsu nonstop. And that's also the case for Sorso. Just keep drawing Moya and the right cards nonstop. And then if I play the same list with them, but not with the same luck with them, I'm probably still not able to go as high as they perform at the end. Right? And then a good majority of the format feel like puzzle pieces, where there's Mitsu, there's Ryzeal, there's Fingsmith, there's Orcus, there's so many more. And then during 2022, there's Punk, there is Brave, there's Branded, there's Predaplan, there is Centurion, no, not Centurion, there's Therions, and then there even earlier that year there was Anaconda was DPE, right? The whole format feels incomplete, where individually those engines are not good enough, so you have to put puzzle pieces together. But then individual engines come with bricks, and if you are lucky, you draw the good cards out of all those engines, you're 100% winning. But if you are just normally lucky or just almost unlucky like I had, you just start drawing the bad cards, the bricks in those engines, and suddenly you're not winning by any possible chance. And this year we have Chummies, we have Drows, and I think during that year there's Mr. Mind that just kind of, even you are drawing broken going first, there's still unfair cards going second that just shuts off everything. So the more I play this current format, the more I start disliking it, because at the end it almost feel like it's more luck based format than skill than builds, and I am not confident with my luck at all, and I don't think giving me the same luck playing the same tournament again would change much if my opponents are just luckier than me. So at the end, yeah, despite I didn't do well, I don't think there's much more I could change or improve even. I just hope this video, the thoughts of a lot of like individual cards could still help anyone who's like still have European WCQ left, maybe have other tournaments left, before the whole TCG gets shuffled again with Justice Hunters. And despite I didn't do well, because I kind of had a break that detoxed myself from Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm now trying to treat the game differently. My UDS bell is also expired at this point, so I'll no longer have free VIP to all the tournaments I enter. I'm now trying to get myself enjoying my weekends, enjoying my YCs or WCQ weekends even if I don't do well. Just more so enjoying the trip than kind of push myself to do things. And I think that's probably why I am still and was recording this video. Because one of the big reason you don't see me update as often in the past is just because I didn't do well. A lot of times I don't feel I was good enough to record anything. My statements wasn't sounding enough to convince people or to even have opinions. So that's a lot of negativity in this video, but hopefully you will still like it. Hopefully you will still learn a lot of things from my relatively tragic performance at the North American WCQ. And if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Share it to other people who might be preparing for European WCQ. And I hope to see you in the next one. And I hope anyone who is still having big tournaments coming, good luck, be lucky, draw the right cards. And I'll see you in the next time. Goodbye.